Today's episode is dedicated to Staff Sergeant Shoam Ben Harush. He was 20 years old, a Nahal soldier who planned to travel the world. He died on October 26, 2023, of wounds sustained battling Hamas on October 7th. May his memory be blessed.
If the world doesn't know by now that minorities in the Middle East are some of the worst suffering people in the world, and that includes enormous populations of Christians, then what are they doing? What are you doing with your time?
Welcome back to the pod. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Today on the Addison edition, I'd like to welcome Yannai Habanai, a social media influencer whose work shines a spotlight on the MENA movement, Middle East and North African minorities. All eyes on MENA. Yannai, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Can you give our viewers and myself, since this is the first time we're really meeting, a little background about your story and how you got to where you are today?
I was born in Israel. I grew up in New York. So I have always had kind of a different perspective from most American Jews, but I did grow up inside of that political environment and social environment, honestly. It's very different from here. My mother's Yemeni, my father's Ashkenazi. And so we would travel back and forth a lot, and it always felt like coming home. You know, there was even a smell in the air when you arrive in Israel that feels comforting. And I think realizing that kind of everybody has that place is a bit of what in the last few years drove me to what I'm doing. But before that, there's, I guess, a lot of back and forth, including moving to Israel when I was 18. I intended to do something like an Atuda.
What's an Atuda?
It's like ROTC in the States, if you know it, which is, you do your studies, and at the same time you do your military basic training, officer training, and you enter with an officer rank and a specific task that you kind of jump right into. Usually serve for longer, but anyway, at the time, getting accepted to university it was just basically impossible without a lot of preparatory work in Israel. And so I decided to go back to the States to study, moved back to Israel, did my master's here, where I did do a 6-month program in the Army. I served for something that was called Shlav Bit. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was basically to get people who came to Israel later in a position in the Army. And I worked with I'm a green building consultant. I guess that's an important thing that has been in my life. It's what I've been working in for the last 15 years or so.
What's a green building consultant?
So I had to construct a degree in my undergrad that studied to focus on sustainable architecture, because at the time it really wasn't being taught very much in university architecture degrees. So I decided to kind of make my own path. But when I came here for a master's, there was a research degree of that in Stebokhet, which is where I ended up studying. Basically, environmentally conscious architecture, trying to save energy, water, space considerations, materials. There's a lot of aspects to it, and there's a field for it in Israel. It's just pretty hard to make a living, and you have to have a lot of expertise, and that's what I've been doing for the past 15 years. And since the war, a lot of us kind of left what we were doing. It woke a lot of us up to a lot of things, and I didn't leave the consulting field immediately, and I didn't leave it completely. I still take private jobs, but just sitting in an office for 9 hours a day while the whole world was kind of blowing up and there were massacres and the war we were involved in and the global response, I mean, it was impossible to ignore. And I found myself spending all of my free time fighting the media battle, mostly in the comment sections and posts, reels, things on Instagram, just long debates with people, and doing my own research and learning about the real history here that I wasn't taught even growing up as a Jew in America. I would come here and my family was so right-wing and I didn't understand it. Just over the decade and a half, more 17 years or so that I've been living here, basically half my life. I've just grown to understand where it's coming from and what the need for it is, and that it shouldn't only apply to Israel. We have something special here where we are in the middle of this sea of blue that you see here. I wish you had shown Israel in maybe a different color, maybe the rest in red and Israel in blue, just to
We're
make you
right
understand.
there.
For everybody who doesn't know at this point, this is where Israel is. We're like tiny fraction of the area
Probably
of the
someone
Arab
looking
world.
at this is like, the Jews run all of that sea.
That's why you made it in blue. It was subtext that the audience might or might not catch.
We got to give some credence to running the world, you know?
Yeah, we're definitely doing a great job of that.
Do you think that there's as much as October 7th really affected Jews and Israelis here in Israel, it affected Jews around the entire world. Do you think that do you think, like you said, there's some sort of connection when you really come here? You kind of, um, you you as a person kind of mold to the land and to the situations that are happening around you. Like you said, your family was really right wing and you didn't really understand why. Do you think that's a common element among Jews that live outside of Israel, that there's that even though it's affected them, there's still maybe a disconnect? Or do you think October 7th kind of really hit home that we're really all in this together?
I think a lot of them woke up, but definitely not all of them. It's been a struggle. I mean, people in my personal life just have no idea what's actually going on, and they just believe whatever they're told by the media, even the media that they're suspicious of. They'll just believe whatever it is about Israel. Yeah, and Jews. Yeah, we've all been affected in different ways, and I think a lot of the Jews in the diaspora have experienced a lot more anti-Semitism against them because of this, and they
Are
do
they
what a lot of Jews have done over the centuries. They've kind of gone with the flow, and just hope that they would be seen in a better light because of it.
because the war has been going on now for close to 2 years, because of all this anti-Semitism that the Jews are experiencing in the diaspora, do you find that Jews in the diaspora are actually starting to blame Israel for the harm that is happening to them?
Yeah, I don't think you can deny that. But if they just did a little bit of research, I mean, you claim to have a connection to a land and to a people, but when it comes to all the slander about them, you just don't care. You don't have the time to look into it. I mean, so many people are posting the truth. I mean, we're showing videos of what's actually happening. We're showing from all directions. You can find anything you need just by skimming through social media for an hour, and they don't even have the time for that. It's very frustrating.
So how did you end up where a lot of people are in the Israel advocacy space? You seem to be focused more on this, what I deem the MENA movement, right? The minorities that are experiencing discrimination in the greater Middle East and North Africa. How did you land on that rather than pushing more the Israel advocacy?
Well, it's more than just Mina. I mean, there's
Mina,
that Mena Mina.
Mina.
I don't know how to pronounce that. I've also only ever seen it written. Um, it goes beyond that because it's everywhere. It's happening everywhere. We're seeing the expansion of the same forces that caused that, and it used to be more blue. If you include, Spain and Turkey. I mean, I don't know why Turkey isn't in blue here. That's Islamic essentially, and
All right.
Afghanistan. I mean, this
It's
map should
because
be
they're part of
bigger.
NATO.
Yeah, I guess these are Arab states, and Turkey is not an Arab state. But we're seeing the same forces spreading beyond into Europe and Canada and the United States, which has done more to control it. But I'm sure Latin America is having similar problems. I mean, in everywhere. I'm pro nationalism, and I hope that isn't misconstrued because I think it can be and it often is. I'm pro people having a place they can belong, that they can feel safe in, that they feel that connection with. And all throughout the globe, you have places where the people who live there are the people who built those places, the people who developed the culture there, who have, you know, maybe their ancestry goes back 100 or 200 generations, maybe it goes back two or three, but they are connected to that in a way. Even the recent ones have adopted what was there. They're there because they love it, you know. And what we're seeing is a clash of, you know, I'm not telling anybody anything new. I think this has become very common knowledge, aside from maybe from the far left, which is always crazy, I think, period. But it just in the Middle East and North Africa, we have a situation where Islam and I guess Arabism is the dominant force, and it's so oppressive that I mean, and we're the ones that can actively affect it. I mean, I feel like I'm going really. I might be rambling. I hope I'm not. This is the
While you
region.
ramble, I learn. It's all good.
I'll try to stay to a point as much as I can. The reason that I focus on the Middle East and North Africa is because it's the region where Israel has the most impact. I mean, we're seeing it in Syria right now with the Druze, and not just the Druze. Israel's getting calls for help from all the minorities around Syria. We've affected the conflicts in other places too. You know, we've stopped Iranian shipments of weapons to Sudan to be used in slaughtering Christians. We've taken a lot of actions for minorities, and they are the ones who realize it. I mean, they can't really speak it out loud because they'll get, you know, almost in all of these places, they'll just be massacred for it. But we're seeing, you know, Morocco, where things are more officially, openly friendly with Israel. More and more people are coming to Israel to visit. Some of them with bad intentions, but mostly with good. And we're seeing a loosening of that, and the minorities feeling more emboldened to take a stand. The ones who aren't Arab but have been Arabized.
Do you know how many different minorities there are throughout the Middle East and North Africa?
No, I don't. And there are so many that have disappeared as well, but uh, dozens. There must be dozens.
I mean, I know I can list the Armenians, the Christian. Would Christians be under the Armenian label?
Well, Armenians are Christians. They were the first Christian country, but I wouldn't call Christians one label because they're different sects of Christianity
Obviously,
all
I'm a
over the Middle East.
racist.
No, it's okay. And I don't know if I'd even categorize Armenians in there unless they're outside of Armenia,
So
of course.
so out of the minorities that you know, who would you categorize within this?
Druze, Kurds, Alawites, Yazidi, Copts, Mandeans, Maronites, which are Christians. Copts are also Christians. Several of these are just different kinds of Christians, but the Amazigh, who Berbers, they don't like that term. We don't like that term. It's just
Berbers?
Yeah, you know, have you heard of the Berbers?
No.
Okay, so they're the Amazigh from Morocco, and they are a minority who was Arabized, and the Arabs gave them the name Berbers, which is their word for barbarians. So let's not call them that anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the Amazigh are a minority being oppressed in Morocco, forcibly converted, whatever the Islam does. I'm sure they're paying jizya or something.
What do you think the percentage of the world knows about the? What percentage of the world do you think knows about the atrocities and discrimination that's happening to the minorities let's say surrounding Israel?
Well, that's a good question. I feel like I'm exposed mostly to a bubble, which sometimes we get intrusions from the outside, or I also try to post in things like Eye on Palestine or whatever.
Eye on Palestine?
It's a big pro-Palestinian
Are these the
Facebook
people who
page.
started like all eyes on Rafah kind of stuff?
Yeah, that type of thing. The Middle East Eye, the same kind of thing.
They must have felt really foolish when we found a bunch of hostages in Rafah.
They just completely ignore everything that isn't their narrative. They just gloss over it entirely. If anything goes contrary to what they are painting, they don't post it, and they post so much that is just fake.
Do these people just choose to be bad people? like like they have to know that they're full of shit and that they're just trying to drive a narrative to drive Israel out of existence.
I think it depends who. There are those people, but even they, I don't know if they consider themselves bad people. If it's coming from a place of jihad, then there's a cognitive dissonance there, because I don't believe anybody can be a jihadi and not have something internally struggling against it. I mean, it,
You think they just like push that side down?
I think the culture is so strong that just teaches them from birth, but they must hate themselves.
Well, if you're willing to harm yourself, literally kill yourself, is it just because I'm a Jew and I don't? I, how do I phrase this? I understand depression, and I understand that many people have just thoughts that go through their head that they wouldn't necessarily take action on, because we don't always control the thoughts that we think.
Yeah.
But to actively pursue ending your life and and to actively pursue ending your life, ending somebody else's life, and saying that that is the purpose of life. You think you have to hate yourself to do that?
Well, you have to hate life. And to do that, I think, how can you love who you are if you are, I don't know, maybe this is a very theoretical question that I haven't really delved into, and I would want to think about it further before I spoke about it,
I hear.
honestly. Um, I think the actions of Islamists is a much more relevant thing to talk about than what's going through their psyche.
Okay.
There are people that are fighting against the Islamic narrative, exposing it. We've been taught a history that's not real, and there are amazing people that are doing great work to just expose everything that's been, from Yasmin Mohammed to Raymond Ibrahim to, I mean, I'll give you a list, but from what I know, but the fact that people are still flocking to it is just very worrying. Um, Even that's controversial, because I've heard people say that not many people are actually converting to Islam. I mean, outside of prisons, there are more people leaving than there are joining. But the people who are joining are definitely more extreme and tend towards those, and from what I've seen, extremist views of politics, Israel, etc. And they definitely ignore the horrors of what's been happening in Islamic ruled countries.
The first question I asked was just kind of tell your story. But you said you didn't. You thought we were going to start somewhere else. Where do you think we were? Where did you want to start?
Okay, so Israel's role in the Middle East is to be a light for the nations. I think that's very straightforward. There are a bunch of nations that are around this region that, because Israel exists, can hope for themselves that they might one day have something similar. And I hope for that for them too. That's my highest hope. Right now, we have Iranians that are overthrowing their government actively. And thank God for that. It's been far too long. It's 46, 47 years. I don't know, but the Ayatollah has to go. And whatever comes afterwards is going to be Israel's partner in the rest of the change. Syria is falling apart. I mean, it's never been a cohesive place, but especially now. I mean, when it was under the Turkish Empire, it was the Ottoman Empire, sorry, it was under their neglect, and it has been neglected and abused ever since, taken advantage of. Minorities have had to do sometimes awful things to maintain their lives, essentially.
I think I find that interesting about Syria, because after Assad was overthrown, there was almost what seemed like a joy among some of the world and Israel of like, oh my goodness, thank God Assad is gone, and the next leader, I have his name. Please tell me his name again.
I just always call him Al Jolani. He's Mohammed Al Shara, but he's trying to get rid of the Al Jolani name, and I'm not with it.
What's the Al Johnny
It's
name?
from the Golan, claims to be from that place, and think it's divisive, and he's trying to put that in his past. Essentially, I think it was his name when he was in was it ISIS, the Taliban. Um, yeah, he's a terrorist who's trying to wipe his past clean, and I don't think we should allow him to,
Why not?
because he is what's the word? He's enabling the massacres that have been going on, if not directing them himself.
Well, that's what I was, I guess, confused about, because Assad, although he had ties to the Ayatollah and Iran and really caused havoc for Israel,
And Lebanon and
Jelani doesn't may seem to be quote unquote better for Israel, but what he's been doing to the minorities in Syria is unconscionable.
I've been told by Druze that he is the Antichrist. They do not see him favorably is a very, very polite way to say it. I mean, he's a monster. There's a reason there was a bounty on his head. I don't know why they removed it. I don't know why they took the HTS off the terror list. I mean, that has to be undone immediately. I think it's time for Syria to see something other than Islamic Arabism controlling it. I mean, you can argue that Assad was not religious and he was, brutal in his control, and that control meant that, there might have been violent coups, but it was when there weren't violent uprisings, the minorities had some sort of stability. There's none of that stability now. I won't say it's a step up, because how do you compare horrible, just violent murderers one to the other? They're both awful, and we have to let Syria free of those types of things.
But so what are we supposed to do? Because I think I just read that Israel and Syria are talking about some sort of um, border agreement. It sounds like other countries are also trying to work with Syria. There's all been this talk about bringing Syria into the Abraham Accords.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on Israel taking a step back from Syria, or actually having boots on the ground protecting the Syrian minorities?
There are boots on the ground right now. There's not a lot of them, but there are tanks, there's some troops, armored vehicles. That's the only thing keeping the Druze of southern Syria alive right now. The country, the people, all the forces there that are connected to Al-Shara and the HTS, the Bedouins, are just continuing to threaten all-out slaughter. They want to finish the job. And they're organizing there to try to put up a resistance, but if Israeli forces leave, it's just going to continue. So that's not an option.
But would somebody argue that is that our responsibility?
So you want to go far back, or?
Let's go.
All right. So if you want to go back as far as Jethro, who is the spiritual father of the Druze, Abraham, of course, Moses, of course, married his daughter. And that was the start of the ties between Jews and Druze. And that, took place in Egypt, but they migrated. Now they live in Syria and, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, maybe a few in Iraq, but probably not. Anyway, we've had a long history with the Druze, and they've had a long history with Islam. Islam conquered them, essentially, Arabized them like they did with so many others. But the Druze were not willing to take up this violent, oppressive, what's the word I'm looking for? The need to erase other non-Islamic elements. They didn't believe that Muhammad was the last prophet. And I don't know if they believe that he was perfect. I mean,
What do they believe?
That's secretive, which is, I
Why?
think, the most interesting thing.
Why?
They're the most fascinating religious minority in the world. I think they hold some secrets that one day are going to change everything. If they're ever released, I think maybe the world has to be ready for it. I have so many theories about the Druze.
I'm very curious. I'm very, very curious about them. Because I wonder if they have an oral tradition like we have an oral tradition, just passed down from the story, seen through Yisro's eyes.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. Um, hmm. Oh, I hope one day we're going to find out.
Yeah,
Because
man.
they're so secretive, but and I mean, you can't. There's no entering that sect, that fold. There's no. I, one day, one day.
So why are they just kind of why are is the new Syrian regime just kind of going ham on the minorities all of a sudden?
Jihad. That's always been the cause.
But it's
Uh,
almost like they've just been like let loose,
yeah,
like
well,
pit bulls off their leash.
Assad was,
Angry pit bulls, because some pit bulls are really nice.
yeah. I mean, I guess so. I've had some lovely pit bulls in my life. Assad was not one of them. He was a Ba'athist, and they were ostensibly, Arab socialists. So, um, pan-Arabism, that movement changed over the years. It's very complicated what happened in Syria. Tons of coups and power shifts,
Are you able to give
foreign
a
control.
little history about Syria from the time of Assad's reign to now?
Well, Assad just fell very recently, so
Right.
that's very simple. I can give that. Further back, where to begin? A lot of it's tied to Iraq. The Ba'athist Party was something that was very strong in both countries until Saddam, and there was a lot of infighting. Let's see. I wouldn't say there was. It wasn't democracy. There were different parties once in Syria, aside from the ruling Ba'athist Party.
Like a democracy.
Not a democracy, I would say. I don't know if there
Like
were.
democracy light. You
You were
can't even
allowed to
call
have
it.
opinions, I
Oh,
guess.
okay.
And there was some sway in government decisions. I don't know if there was like representatives of groups. I don't know if people were voting, but there were people with power, and there was, I guess, some social mobility through the military, and that's kind of always been the case, even under Assad. Um, but when Egypt and they really started the Pan-Arabist movement, and Syria was all about it, and they kind of allowed Egypt to take control for a while, and the condition was that they erase, whatever other parties they have. It can only be one party. You have to unify, and well, that was the idea. You have to unify into one party, and so the Ba'athist Party accepted, and then just essentially didn't ask anybody else about it, got rid of the other parties. That didn't last very long. Then there was all the Soviet influence during the height of the Cold War, which I'm not too deep in an expert there, but they became, I wouldn't say, let's say they have a long history of being proxies to having external control. And Assad was no different. I mean, he had to be brutal within Syria to maintain that control. And he's part of the same Ba'athist party that was in power since, I want to say, the founding in like 46. Essentially, there might have. Yeah, I'm not like a huge expert on the long history of, and there have been, I don't know, a dozen coups, maybe more. Um, but
Syria is just kind of like that place.
it's had so many hands inside of the pot, and so many different attempts at power, and he's violently suppressed all of them, and they've led to crazy civil wars. I mean, 2011 was a bloodbath. Horrible, horrible times. The rising of ISIS forces there, what they did to the Yazidi in 2014, what they're still doing now. I mean, it's
But it's like they went from one dictator to another dictator. But there's an argument that I've heard that Assad was better for the minorities in Syria.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you could say that minorities in Syria were not just outright slaughtered, they were allowed to become part of the system through the military and through slaughtering many others, keep control. But there wasn't, I mean, there was socialism. Let's not forget that. There were many, many problems with
Which is
Syria.
always
Even
good for
oh, the
everybody.
best. Oh, I forgot that we're speaking to maybe a varied audience, and they're not all just as anti-socialism as I am. Yeah, there are a lot of problems with socialism as well, and just the fact of Syria. I mean, it's not one cohesive people at all. I mean, if you look at the map of Syria, you can just see, you plot the demographics on it. You got Kurds in the north and the Druze in the south and the Alawites. And in the middle, you've got, all sorts of Bedouins and Arab tribes and families. And those are the ones now, it's not just them. I mean, you have so much radical Islam inside of Syria to begin with that had to be suppressed under Assad, but you also have ISIS forces coming from outside, which this monster of a, I don't want to even call him human, brought in to carry out these massacres. I mean, it's false flag, massacre, false flag, massacre. That's his MO.
Yes, but it seems that that countries from around the world are actually trying to do work with him.
Takia, I don't know why they're still falling for it. It's such common knowledge that this is the strategy. You lie to further your cause, get whatever you need, and then you continue with your true purpose.
I think this is just a very Western mindset. I don't understand how, like,
It's the same thing driving American Jews, I think. They can't believe that people are just evil. It's a paradigm that we live in that, for me too, shifting that American paradigm to one where I don't want to say an Israeli paradigm because I've still got the remnants of what I lived through, if not shaping, then at least informing the way I view the Middle East now. But just breaking from that paradigm is so difficult. Breaking from any paradigm is difficult. It involves a lot of cognitive dissonance. It involves really, searching for the truth, which is something that not a lot of people are willing to do.
I had a friend, Ari Kolker, on the show like a few months ago, and I had mentioned to him that there's always been a side of me that even the most, what you would view the most evil people, there has to be some good inside them. And he looked at me, he says, I think that's very ignorant. And October 7th, us as Jews, we always have learned about the Holocaust. We've seen pictures, we've seen videos, we've heard the stories. But this generation of Jews, I think October 7th was the first time we've actually experienced or seen evil. And I can't imagine what has broken or gone through the psyche of those who were there, whether it was at the Nova Festival or the Kibbutzim or Sderot.
Yeah.
And it was the thing that clicked for me, that there's just evil in the world. But what do you do with evil when the rest of the world is trying to make it survive?
What do you do in the face of evil when the rest of the world is enabling it? Well, you have to find out why the rest of the world is enabling it, and I think we've done that.
What's the reason?
Money. I mean, there's been Qatari and money, Chinese influence, Russian influence in all
You
of
think
the
that's
West.
do you think that's the reason?
I think that's a big part of the shift. I mean, there's anti-Semitism that's always been there, but I think the reason it's been given such legs in the face of all this is all that money, all that education. I experienced it myself. I mean, I grew up in an mixed Israeli family, and traveling a lot to Israel. I even spent maybe in total a year in my youth, a year plus. Yet after going through university, I also found myself with just harboring some very, very wrong views of Israel. And I was in university in 2004 or 5.
Can I ask what type of views?
Just kind of like assumptions about Israel and how we treat Palestinians, quote unquote, and how, we've been aggressors in certain wars and like don't have equal rights. Like you don't get the truth of that just coming and visiting, you know? You have to live here. You have to talk to people. You have to understand that Arabs living in Israel, or sorry, in the West Bank,
Judea, Samaria.
I'm talking specifically about Area A.
Okay. That's controlled by the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah, yeah, they're not happy. I mean, there are extremists among them, but they've lived this a long time. A lot of them are, very fed up with what they've
Do you think a
been
lot of them
going
would be
through.
happy if Israel annexed?
I think, yeah, maybe even the majority.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have friends now. Of course, I'm exposed mostly to people who travel back and forth to Israel, so they're already biased, I guess, towards a more coexistence. Playing pool in Israel, I mean, they're amazing players in Judea and Samaria, like East Jerusalem, Bethlehem. There's some really fantastic pool players, and there's a very strong culture. And so I meet some of them just very regularly who come to the tournaments over here, and they have much bigger tournaments than we have, like 70 plus people. Here we're lucky to get over 20. And we've just become good friends, and they're very, just really nice people. I mean,
I'm about to divert a little bit. How'd you get into the pool game
when I was,
or billiards?
yeah,
Billiards for those of you.
yeah, billiards. I guess mostly pool because I play
Is
mostly on a
pool
pool
different
table.
than billiards?
Billiards is kind of the category of games, so snooker, billiard,
Okay.
pool,
It's like an
Russian
umbrella.
pyramid, yeah, like
Okay.
carom, all those games. They're all fun, they're all interesting, but my game was mostly 8 ball, 9 ball, play some 10 balls, straight pool, but whatever on that table, that specific table, um, which is called a pool table. So that started. I always loved games. I played a lot of chess as a kid, and then it got into Go. I don't know if you know what. You probably know what Go is. Wakey Battle. It's a game that's played on a grid 19 by 19 with black and white round stones. You've
Oh,
seen it
okay.
in like A
Yeah.
Beautiful Mind and a bunch of
Okay.
films, I'm sure. So I was really into that for a few years. And when I was living in Israel, when I was for a year when I was 18, I was in a preparatory program, a mechina for entrance to university, intending to still do that through that program. And I made a friend who was a Russian, I think a former pro, who played Russian Pyramid. And he took me to the pool hall and he taught me how to play a little bit. And I played my first tournament and it was super exciting. I just fell in love right away. And I spent, I don't know, 5 years or so playing very intensely, even all throughout university. I left the Mechina program and I was working in my uncle's greenhouse in the morning. I'd work for like 7 hours and then walk to the pool hall, play for a few hours, go to the gym, go to the other pool hall, play for a few hours and go home. And that was my life for like 3 months. It was fantastic. Um,
Then
and
he had to get a life. No kidding.
well, after university, during my university stay in time in Binghamton, SUNY Binghamton, where I studied my undergraduate, I found a pool hall that was really amazing, and I really want to give them a shout out because the owner was wonderful. I don't think it's there anymore, but he, after a month or two playing there 4 or 5 times a week, and being the competition for his local pro, some pool halls will host a pro that they go on tour with, and then they'll sponsor and maybe to make some of the winnings with. Share some of the winnings. He's like, hey, you can play for free, since you're helping train my guy. Maybe we can get you in these tournaments too soon. And that was like, I would go to school and I would play pool. And when I came back to Israel, it was just so expensive. I mean, there was no outlet for it, and you would have to pay. At the time, it was like 52 shekels, 53 shekels, 54 an hour just for a table.
Oh.
And for somebody, just out of university, how are you going to make that sort of money? So I kind of stopped for a long time until I found a league that was really cheap and you met lots of people and you get to play for a lot of time. And it was really fun. And ever since I've kind of gotten back into that. But now I have some shoulder issues that age has brought about. And
I'm sorry.
yeah, life.
We don't have a masseuse on hand, or else I would.
This studio is so nice. I would have expected it, but I'm gonna note that in my rating,
Yeah.
my review.
So, as a content creator that is trying to bring more eyes on the minorities around the Middle East, what are you trying to do? Like, what's your mission? What's your mission statement?
I want the West to stop funding jihadis, to stop making deals with them, to stop treating them as legitimate. It has to stop. And all the deals we're doing with them, it's just causing all the disasters in the region. It has to end. And we can focus on minorities and empowering them. I include the Christians in Lebanon, even though they're ostensibly they were the majority. Now they're fighting back for whatever legitimacy they can get there. Those are the people we have to prop up, not the people trying to kill everybody else. It's insane. Why are we still doing this? So I'm trying to paint that picture as clearly as I can. Again, I spent like a year and a half before I even started making content, just arguing with people in comments and hours a day. And maybe I had some influence. And not only comments, DMs. Oh, man. I spent months arguing with people, literally, like sometimes hours a day, just back and forth, sending content material, just debating. And some people, I mean, it's just a brick wall.
I was going to ask, is it actually possible to get through to some of these people? Because we got connected through Michael Gamal, Coptic Zionist, shout out.
He's the man.
But talking to him, at least from my point of view, he seemed to always have this like, let your conscience be your guide. Something inside him always seemed to be pulling him towards the truth. Even when he was trying to suppress it, there was something that was telling him, what are you doing? Maybe it's just the microcosm world. I don't know if I use that properly. Maybe it's just the tunnel that I live in. But are there a lot of people like him? Like, can you actually get through to some of these people? There
are more than we know. So I'm going to first talk about the public ones. I wish I had more names, but there are people who have woken up like him, people who are also very anti-Zionist for one reason or another, whether they were, socialists when they were younger and socialists hate us. And I recently came across a video of somebody telling his personal story in a little more long form and just his journey through politics. The big change for him was Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand.
We can look it up.
Oh, man.
Ayn
Rand. A-Y-N.
Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand.
Have you had anybody reach out to you to try to argue what you're trying to argue against and actually have seen a shift and been like, oh?
It's rare, but I actually just recently had one this morning. And this was quick, so I think there are a lot of people who are really just don't know very much, and they're not fence sitters. They've taken the anti-Israel approach because of society around them and what they see. But what was it on? I think it was even a reel of mine that somebody commented on, and it probably took 2 hours of actually conversing with this person to convince them that like maybe what you think isn't the truth. And that was last night. And then this morning I got a like message, a like on my last message. So I think he actually went and did some of the research. And I think that's a person that might actually change, which was a really wonderful thing to wake up to because it's so rare. And I'm wondering how many people are just not in the comments, not vocalizing that they're actually coming to that, because I do see it in some big creators. I go to a lot of comment sections, especially videos that I like. I want to see what people are saying. Videos I disagree with, I want to see what people are saying. And a lot of people are pro-Israel, depending where you look.
Right. It's always depending on where you look.
Yeah.
I'm also curious, and I don't know if you're the right person to talk to this about, but how people go from being pro-Israel to the other side. Maybe the most famous one at the current moment is Miss Candace Owens, who, when she was with PragerU, was all about Israel, and all of a sudden, like, Kanye says something, and she's like, all right, graduation day, time to go to the other side. I have my own theories, but I'm not going to accuse anybody of anything. I'm not trying to get sued.
So do I have to preface this with this is my own
Alleged,
personal?
oh, your own personal thoughts. You're not actually
Yeah,
accusing anyone of
this is
anything.
for educational purposes only. Nobody should take anything as facts. This is just throwing this out there as my take on Candace Owens. She's a narcissist and self-serving, and there have been plenty of analyses of her personality and her history that can show that she's just gone from whatever does her the best good at any given moment. And yeah, that was PragerU and
You think
Ben
she's a grifter?
Shapiro. Oh, absolutely, 100%. I don't think she's the most intelligent grifter, but I think she was accepted so readily into the right because she is a pretty black woman who could speak well and will back your position if she decides to. There's so many people that are waking up to their bullshit because they just keep spewing it. They're going deeper and deeper into things that are just so obviously lies and pushing it so
I
vehemently.
mean, this whole Macron like wife thing of that she's like a man
Oh, that's
or
what you're trying to get out of me. I
no,
got you. I
no,
got you.
no,
I don't
no.
know if I should say it
But
on such a
like,
public
no, no, no.
forum.
But for somebody who claims to be on the side of God, and what about the Christians? Blah 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 blah. She seems to talk an awful lot about Israel and care more about somebody's wife possibly being a man than it seems like she is to advocate for the Christians in Syria or the Christians
Yeah.
in.
So why don't we talk a little bit more about those people and the current like massacres? The one that I've been the most involved with has been Syria, and then there's a lot of reasons for that. I don't want to get too deep into bashing Candace and Tucker and all these people who have been bought and paid for by Qatar.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. No, don't sue me. I don't think Candace has been bought. I think she's just what I said before. The others like self-serving like Tate. I mean, these people who are there to be snakes in the grass for the right. And they're doing a fantastic job of it. And they're turning the West against Israel because they have such a big following, which I hope and pray is shrinking and people are waking up to it. But yeah, I mean, it started somewhere. I mean, there's definitely some deep-seated anti-Semitism in so many different, Christian beliefs that, again, most of them are not this way. Christians have been our greatest allies, and the more they wake up to what's happening to Christians, so many Christians in Middle East and North Africa, the more I think they will have, even the ones that are anti-Israel, if they understand what's really being done here, they can be swayed, and I think that's also why I think it's so important.
But it's also, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's also, but the Christian plight, and I put this in quotes because I'm going to focus this on Israel because I know there's a Christian plight throughout the greater Middle East. But whenever they seem to talk about the Christian plight, it always has to do with Christians in Israel. What is going on with the Christians in Israel? It's
Right.
always Israel, 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 Israel. Candace just said that she thinks that Israel is Donald Trump's high, that it's his drug. But isn't a drug something somebody goes back to and is going to end up ruining their life sometimes? Because these people that we're talking about, they seem to always come back. Israel, 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 Israel. Maybe you should look in the mirror.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're doing it for views, for clicks, for attention. That's their high. It's so much projection from that group. But then there's Tucker, who I believe is just bought and paid for because he's flopped so heavily from, I'm sure you've seen the recent video
With the
exposing.
nun?
No, the one, there was somebody just made a mashup of the way he talked about the jihadis just like a few years ago
Okay.
and how he talks about
No, I didn't see this.
Yeah, and Sharia today.
This is something that I find, I don't know if disturbing is the right word, but you have people like Candace Owens or the Tucker Carlsons or the Fresh and Fits or the Pierce Morgans. I'm not going to say that they're wrong on everything. I really do believe that a lot of these people built their platforms based on things that I identify with. These people have built their platforms on things that I believe people are like, oh yeah, I agree with that. But now that you have a following, now that you have people that agree with you, they're going to believe what you say. And you can now spit any kind of bullshit you want.
Yeah, I think it's important to see who's saying what when. If you can see when somebody shifts to say this view that you agree with, were there signs that the culture was moving in that direction and they were just hopping on board? I think a lot of times you can spot them that way. Yeah, and just see how often they flip flop. If there was some impetus for it, if somebody changes their opinion, but it's because they've received some information that they didn't have before, that's fantastic. But if somebody did it because of clicks and views or money in their pocket, that's something else. And a lot of this is traceable. A lot of it's not. A lot of it's a lot of work, and people are doing that work. There's some really great. Maybe I'll send you some names of people doing exposés on these sorts of things. But Aquarius Wave is one YouTuber who just I want to say yesterday or 2 days ago posted an interview he did with one such person who exposed Tucker and spoke about other exposés on Candace. And that's something we can point people to, and we have to point people to because the information's out there. It's about making it ubiquitous in common knowledge, the world to understand exactly who these people are. Because again, that's the dangerous thing about it. They come at you with truth, and then they slip in the lies and the fabrications, and they become a trusted source. So you have a hard battle to fight against somebody who's following a cult leader or even religious, and you can kind of say that followers of these people are cultish or religious in a way.
I feel like we could talk about these people all day and
Yeah.
bash the hell out of them, but I want to get back to Israel and the greater region. What are your thoughts on how Israel should be interacting with the region in regards to Israeli power making the region safer? Where should our hands be? Where should our hands not be?
Our hands should be everywhere they're invited to be. Now, I don't mean going in and having military action, although that at times is necessary, as we've just seen. If you have people who genuinely have been oppressed by Arabism, by Islam, who are suddenly finding themselves in these dire situations, how can you ignore them? I mean, when I was younger, I would hear about these things happening in the world, but it was, you're a small voice. What can you do to change it? And the whole world's changed since then. I mean, social media is such a powerful platform, such a tool that we can use to sway the public, to get that information out there. So it's crucial that we shed a light on these things. I mean, it's been allowed to go on for so long, and it's only getting worse. Ever since October 7th, things have been ramping up. I mean, the number of attacks and.
When people talk about Hamas is like Amalek, they're 100% right.
Yeah.
They're 100% right.
But it's not just Hamas. It's the jihad. Jihad is Amalek.
Well, I'm saying what Hamas did on October 7th in general, because if you look at Amalek, it's what did they do? They attacked us from behind. They attacked, which are our weakest people, women, children, the elderly. But the one thing that people don't remember is that the entire world heard God speak to the Jewish people and knew that God brought the Jewish people out of Egypt. Yet they said, we don't care. They kind of broke this shield that was surrounded by the Jewish people. And since October 7th and Hamas did what they did, it seems that this anti-Semitism that must have just been bubbling under the ground exploded.
Yeah, well, it was the groundwork laid by decades of Eastern influences, of Islamic influences.
Do you think this was like
engineered? Absolutely, 100%.
Completely planned for years?
Decades. I mean, we know that Iran.
Talk about patience.
Yeah, I mean, they've played the long game for a very long time. I mean, look at Islam; it's just been growing since its inception, jihad is not just it's holy war, but it's not like by the sword necessarily. That's impatient jihad. That's Hamas jihad. PA is jihad as well, political jihad. The jihad that's happening in the West right now is jihad, and the world needs to wake up to it. They're taking over in every single kind of way, and in the Middle East, in what October 7th was a call to arms, and it was planned. We know that it was planned by Iran at least 5 years in advance. I don't know. You have to go watch the interview with the Mossad agent who she's a French woman who infiltrated Iran, became like their state reporter, and she was just working to undermine the whole time. And then she came out and wrote a book, and she had an interview on the Winston Marshall podcast, I think it was, and it's wonderful. But she says very clearly that 5 years ago there was a meeting where it was planned, like in 5 years this thing's going to happen, and we're just lucky it didn't happen all at once. I mean,
Well, wasn't that there's some people that say that was the plan,
yeah,
that
yeah,
Hamas and Hezbollah and the
yeah,
Houthis, that everyone was supposed to attack at once,
mm-hmm,
but Hamas got a little too giddy.
mm-hmm, yeah, yeah. To be perfectly frank, Israel's amazing intelligence work and counterintelligence, I mean, collecting phones and walkie-talkie signals and just doing everything they can to infiltrate every means of communication, is the thing that allowed that to happen, because they weren't able to synchronize between them well, for fear of interception of the messages. I mean, you've heard about all those SIM cards being turned on in the same morning and all those things, because they had to be incredibly careful about all this. And yeah, I mean, there's other reasons for why they attacked at that moment and why it didn't all happen at once. And, we were, of course, more scared of the other threats, which seemed more realistic. And so our forces weren't around, and they had to send them in time, just hours and hours of chaos and brutality. But again, it's not, we're not alone in this. This just happened to the Druze. I mean, the same thing, and it happened twice, and it wasn't just one day, and it's still, I mean,
But why aren't the Druze getting as much attention as
well, there's always no Jews, no
the
news. I
news?
mean, if we're not involved
It's
with a
so
thing.
easy to just come back to that. Just no Jews, no news.
Maybe it's good that we're actively involved. We need to get more actively involved over there, because if we send our forces over there, people will pay attention.
It's not a bad
Yeah,
idea.
let's go full force. Just take over southern Syria. Let the Druze do whatever they want, and be like, you hands off afterwards. We're gonna train your military. We're gonna get you set up, teach you how to build a. Or, I don't know, teach you how to make your government, or empower you to make a government that works for you.
Yeah, but if Israel I mean, I know we have people in Syria, but if Israel would go full force to try to save the Druze, the headlines would be Israel invades Syria.
Who gives a fuck? Can
I
I
feel
curse?
you.
I'm not allowed to curse.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
who fucking cares?
I'm kind of there also. I think the world is turning against us. I'm also very much I understand Trump has been very good for Israel, but I'm a big believer that Paro always forgets Yosef,
Mm-hmm.
and there's going to come in a couple years where Trump is not in office,
Yeah.
and somebody else is going to be in office, and somebody else is going to be in office after that, and the younger generation is not so loving towards us. We have to start looking towards our future.
Mm-hmm. And it starts with Iran, and it starts with Syria, and it starts with Lebanon, and
You think it starts with these people?
yes,
With these
absolutely,
countries?
absolutely,
Why?
absolutely. Because do you want to start? Which do you want to start with?
You choose.
All right, let's go in that order. Iran. There have been very serious movements to fight against the IRGC. I mean, the Green Movement, the Women Life Freedom Movement. I don't know what they're calling this right now, but to me, it feels like an extension of the Women Life Freedom Movement, where we have caused so much instability in their ranks. We've done so much damage to the IRGC. They're like kind of what we did to Hezbollah, just not as effectively. And I'll get to that too. That the people are finally feeling emboldened to rise. And okay, for anybody who doesn't know, the Iranian people do not like the IRGC. Let's just say that, flat out, they want them gone. Like 95% are opposed to them. And that, of course, that includes the what are they called? MEK, the extreme like communist mujahideen type of people, but they're another minority. But the majority, 80%, let's say, are also pro-Western, maybe more. I have friends who say that 95% is all pro-Western. They have a long and rich cultured history. They've produced great, even when they were Muslim.
Persians are not Arabs.
Yes. I want to make something clear about the Iranian people. They're very not Arab. They are Persian. They had a king, the Shah until the 1979. There was some tensions and communist influences, all sorts of messes. So it was complicated there as well, let's say. But it was Western society that was looking towards more integration and peace and partnerships, rather than what came
Khomeini,
afterwards.
yeah.
And it was the West who installed them. We have to come to terms with that. You can't keep saying, "Oh, Israel is like bombing Iran," when the West put the Shah in place, the Ayatollah in place, and took the Shah out. The Shah was, again,
Is that not just a theory? These are actual
no,
facts.
no. There was incredible support for the Ayatollah. France, they brought it. They sent a flight with the Ayatollah
What
over to bring him to the.
did the West not like how Iran and the Shah were starting to perform on the world stage?
Yeah, I've heard all sorts of theories about it, and again, these are also these are opinions more than I think. What I read was that his cabinet had already communist infiltrators who were trying to overthrow for the government for over 2 decades. I forget the names of specific people, but there were forces trying to undermine the Shah for a long time, and the West just propped them up when there was enough civil unrest to do so. And instead of finding, any sort of other alternative to the monarch, we're all about democracy in the West, right? They sent over the Ayatollah because he promised great oil deals. And this is honestly my personal opinion. This is what I think it was. When you had the Not in My Backyard movement, right? NIMBY in the United States. During that time, the whole environmental movement was gaining ground. And this has caused a lot of cognitive dissonance in me as well, because I feel like a lot of things that have happened in the Middle East are also kind of to blame with not in my backyard, not just the West, but the Green movement.
Not in My Backyard is the Green movement.
It was part of it. So, people didn't like having factories upstream of them in rivers, and they didn't like to have pollution flowing over from different places. So it was headed by, I think, a bunch of environmentalists, and they pushed a lot of the stuff out to have it be produced from abroad. And that includes oil extraction. I mean, it's a very polluting industry, yada, yada. So instead of cleaning things up and trying to improve things, they would go foreign for it. So a lot of oil in the United States shifted from domestic production to Middle Eastern production. And a Shah who was becoming a superpower in the world, Iran was very strong at the time and gaining strength, gaining stability. They were doing well. Prices were only going to rise. So, these Carter and the European leaders who were suffering from, who were undergoing the same processes of pressure to clean up their own backyards, had to start bringing in oil from. It tried to keep the price of oil,
and they wanted
foreign
cheaper.
Oil down. Yeah, and the Ayatollah promised them good prices. He promised them to be a great trade partner in all sorts of ways, and everything's going to be good, yada yada yada. And of course,
that's what I'm learning. Politics is just a lot of lip service.
A lot of interests that people justify somehow.
So how long do you think it's going to be until the Iranian people overthrow Khomeini?
Don't ask me, because I've been wrong before. I thought
You mean you're not a prophet?
But I thought it would have happened already. But all the time there are things happening there. There's explosions every day. There's I think this past weekend there were very serious protests, to the point where normally in Iran, when you have a street protest, the Basij come, the Iranian internal forces come and disperse the crowd by extreme force, firing live rounds into them. I mean, the horrors they've been through is by their own government. But they've been so forceful that the Basij have run away in instances. Just so many people coming at them so violently that I think things are really starting to
heat up.
Yeah, to actually shift to the point where the people are willing to do what it takes to get rid of them.
I hope we see it in our lifetime.
Oh, I hope we see it in
I
the
hope we
next
see it.
coming
I
months.
hope we see it in our lifetime.
I hope we got some wood here.
This is wood right under here. Right under
spit
here.
over my shoulder. Whatever I gotta do. You got salt? I don't know. Is that a thing?
So I like to end podcast with this question to the guests. Is there a question that you're waiting to be asked from somebody that somebody hasn't asked you yet?
Now, this is something that I knew was coming, and I still am not prepared for. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know. Well, I think it's just important for people to know that you all have a voice, and you all have the ability to find all these things out. All the information's out there. Just do the research. Do it honestly. I know you raised the issue of not having a good source and a good media source. There are places, 2C TV, the areas that it covers, he does a great job. My 2C shout out. There's the Enforcer, who is pretty, they have a Western bias in all their coverage, and sometimes they don't get things about Israel so correct. But I think as far as outside of that, they're a great source for understanding just like military actions around the world, what's actually going on. There are even, some news sources that just find people who are talking about stories that aren't mainly spoken about and actually giving them airtime. During this whole Syria thing, you had a few people talking about the Druze, having on Mansour Ashkar to have long interviews. Amit Kozak, but he's part of the Israel space. But Chris Cuomo, we need more of those. We need to encourage that. We need to put raise the names of the people talking about this as much as possible, so they have them on, so that they have us on. We are the Middle East, and Israel is. We're raising our flag for all the minorities to rally around. And whatever happens after that, whether southern Syria becomes free and independent, whether they become part of some Syrian moderate, democratic federation, because there are democratic forces in Syria, or whether they become part of Israel is part of the biblical prophecy or whatever. And that's another thing.
We won't talk about taking over the world,
No,
Pinky.
not taking. I just want people to be open to possibilities other than there is this powerful figure in this place and he has control. No, that's not the whole story. There are peoples living in these places who have agency, who have meaningful lives, who value life, who would be welcoming to us as a society and in general. And the Jews feel vulnerable, man. I mean, if they have independence, it's going to be a long time until they're trained and armed to be able to maintain that independence. And I personally, this is my personal view. I'm not saying anybody else wants this, although the Druze have raised Israeli flags. I think truly the best thing that could happen for the Druze is to at least temporarily become part of Israel.
Aren't some of them asking for that?
Yeah, they're absolutely asking for it, but they're still afraid of the backlash of making that official policy. That's why when they made this declaration of their forces joining and their intentions for themselves, they didn't say join Israel. And again, I don't know if I should be even saying this. Maybe we should cut this part out. Maybe not.
Free speech.
Yeah, but I don't want to get people in trouble.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous place.
Let's not get people in trouble.
I can check if it's okay to be saying this, but I know that there are maybe more than a minority there who would prefer to incorporate and become part of Israel, because the Jews here went and they told them about us. They told them about what life is like with the Jews. And the Jews in Israel have also suffered under Islam and Arabs forever. I mean, once Israel came, they became our first and strongest allies. They joined the military immediately. It's caused them a lot of problems doing that. And we since annexing the Golan Heights, there were problems before then, and there's problems obviously after then. And I think it can all be solved if we just stopped caring about what the West thought and started doing what the Middle East needs.
Yeah, I have this theory that in the next few years we're actually going to I mean, we've started to see it, but we're going to start to see kind of the fall of the West and actually the rise of the Middle East.
Oh, absolutely. I've
I
been
think we're
saying
going to
this
see the
too.
rise of the Middle East, and people are not ready for it.
I'm sure I can find my first time vocalizing that, but I was like, look, if I ever had a prophetic moment, I had this light bulb. It was very soon after October 7th, and I was just like, look at what's happening in the West, and like I'm starting to see, I was starting to understand what Iran's going through, and they, the majority there is pro-Israel, pro-West, and I just had this moment of like, I think it was in one Iranian post. I just like said, like, this is going to be the future. Soon the whole West is going to be looking to us as like, what did we do to ourselves? What the fuck? What? How am I in a burqa?
There's a camera right here. Give a 10-second pitch of what you want to tell the world.
Oh man, I feel like I've already done that. Just be more open-minded. All right, Israel is not the enemy. We are just one people in a very complicated sea, and go test the other waters as well, because there's lots to talk about there.
Thank you, Yannai, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
To continue following our guests, we've placed their ats in the description. And if you'd like to help support the show, click on the Amazon affiliate link and buy to your heart's content. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to never miss an edition of the Addison Edition.